All right. Welcome to the future of Silverstripe. I'm quite excited about this one because this year we can actually do it face-to-face and virtual. So my name is Wayne Yarr. I'm the CEO of Silverstripe. I'm joined today by Jackson Darlow, who is our technical director. Jackson will be doing most of the speaking. Next slide, please. So thank you for coming together today. This is a chance for everybody to get together, and the whole community, in fact, to get together and enjoy a web powered by Silverstripe. So if we go to the next slide, the important thing here is that the community, this is about a community that makes content management flexible, extensible, and scalable together. So for those who don't know, the community around the Silverstripe CMS comprises about 87,000 sites on Silverstripe today, over 5,000 Slack members, and about 3,500 CMS 3 and 4 modules. We also have about 88,000 community subscribers. So that's pretty impressive. So thank you to everyone out there. If we go on to the next slide, please, Jackson. The most important thing here, and the message and the theme throughout, is that Silverstripe CMS is still and will continue to be a core part of where we're heading. So Jackson will actually take you through most of the presentation, and I'll follow up at the end. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Wayne. Hello, yes, I'm Jackson. I am the technical director at Silverstripe. I started in May this year, and I'm really stoked to be able to think about today, Silverstripe today, and be engaged in these conversations with Wayne about tomorrow. Something I really wanted to touch on when I think of the CMS is the innovations that brought us here today. I mean, there are a lot of them, but I tried to really boil them down to the kind of core, familiar functionality that we all know when we use Silverstripe. And so, I remember right back when Silverstripe 2 was early on the scene, it was that ease of the CMS, the ease of the understanding of the MVC architecture, and the best practice that it sort of introduced us to that I think got a lot of us really excited about Silverstripe. And then, of course, it continued to deliver on that common sense developer architecture. And eventually we ended up with a lazy loading ORM, if people can think right back till then, and then a really functional, really usable extensions API, and of course the configuration API, the middleware architecture that followed. But I think fundamentally, and sort of what brings us all together, is the innovation around vendor modules and the way that the CMS as a core allows us to really customize, create flexibility, create extensibility, and scale these applications to do what we love about Silverstripe. So I thought I'd touch on a few recent wins to show how dedicated the team is bringing things out this year. We caught up with PHP Unit. We officially supported PHP 8. We found our performance with GraphQL version 4. And we actually, in 2022, we did a security audit that proved the security of Silverstripe CMS. So what it gets interesting about thinking about today and thinking about tomorrow is finding those high value gaps. They get harder and harder in a maturing product. And fortunately, you'll hear from Max later on in the conference about our new release policy. And something that comes up a lot when we're looking for these gaps are some frequently asked questions. And I just thought I'd bring them up to get us thinking about things we love and things we're really enthusiastic about the CMS. Will we get fluid upgrade paths? Will we get a mature headless solution? Will we ever ship with a visual web builder? Is there any refitting around the templating engine? And will we be thinking about refitting its ORM? These are questions that really enthusiastic, really passionate Silverstripers ask us every week. And so I just really wanted to present them here, because where I want to go with this is this idea that we at Silverstripe have to ask ourselves how we provide the foundations for flexible content apps that extend and scale. So the question gets even broader for us, and there's quite a large challenge today of choosing which directions to take, how we maintain that extensibility and that scalability for everyone who loves the CMS. So we have a belief, which is that when we provide the right foundations, the CMS extensions and scales of innovation are really found in the community. A huge amount of what people love is in that dream that's empowered by the community, and it's really the community that brings that dream alive around Silverstripe CMS. And so you might be wondering, did I deflect the questions? Am I really saying that you have to do all the work? Well, it's not really about trying to deflect. It's about really acknowledging that the community and the modules and contributions are what makes Silverstripe CMS what it is today. And without them, I think Silverstripe CMS wouldn't exist. So in our commercial teams, we have hundreds of our developers that live and breathe these powerful enhancements that come from our passionate open sources and all of the things that they have created with us. And it's an amazing place to be. And so there's big questions being asked. And so across 87,000 websites and applications, there's thousands of content editors and millions of people that have been empowered by the experiences created in our community. So it's something really worth celebrating. It's something we're really passionate about. And so we are asking these questions and we are raising them because we want to answer them with the community. And so the dream of intuitive and flexible content creation lives with the community. And so I'm kind of excited to come here and ask the questions and to think deeply about what the CMS means for today and kind of live in it with the community and what their hopes for the CMS are as well. And so some of the most loved modules that are not core to the CMS, that don't answer these frequently asked questions, are things that we love every day as user forms, Elemental, Fluent, Static Publisher, queued jobs, and grid field extensions. And I just picked the top of the list. Like, there is a phenomenal list of functionality that is created in our community. And so I feel really excited about what we're able to do when we ask ourselves these questions. So when developers reach for a module today, it's their knowledge of familiar and secure Silverstripe fundamentals that allow them to create answers in our community. So, we can gain features predictably, we can build experiences on them, we can understand how it extends and scales, even if we're picking up modules that we haven't touched before, and we can expand and refine it. So this is my belief in the power of the CMS and what we can do together when we pick it up. And so something I kind of want to highlight here is we put a lot of time and attention into ensuring that these strengths, these core strengths in the CMS come with us as we evolve it today. And so Silverstripe CMS is a tested and true content management system, and it sits alongside the many other tools in a content experience. And we at Silverstripe have seen it do that very successfully time and time again. And so one thing that Wayne brought up and something I really want to highlight on is that Silverstripe is a core part of where we are heading. An interesting sort of shape of the market at the moment is DXPs. In our commercial side, we get asked a lot about DXPs. And so something we've really observed is that while the world went through a digital experience platform craze, we found ourselves making the same dedicated decision to keep our web experience alive and keep it secure and keep it supported. And that's to strengthen the core for our community and where we are heading. So something we believe is that content needs to reach people. And the more we observe the shape of the market and the amazing array of content solutions in the market, we find that they have limits, they have complications, and we want to try and make the complex simple. So we work around a simple model, which is that creators and platforms empower content experiences that reach people. And so this is why we are asking ourselves the questions and not rushing to answers. So what we are doing every day working towards this goal is we're taking the strengths of being flexible, extensible, and scalable, and we're creating these new possibilities for the content experiences of tomorrow. But fundamentally, we're using the same values that inspired us today, the same values that make CMS familiar, Silverstripe CMS familiar to everyone in this room and on the stream, and the same values, I think, that really attracted us to the CMS in the first place. Our teams look out to the market, we analyze the market, and we see that the need is still there. So there is this question of where do new possibilities begin? Because what I'm about to do is I'm about to bring the conversation back to Wayne, and we're going to talk about tomorrow, but I want to set the stage for what tomorrow looks like. And so when we're thinking about new possibilities, fundamentally, it's about people. We want to power content experiences that reach people. We want to bridge those gaps where people sort of drop out when they're changing platforms and devices and things like that. And we want to grow the Silverstripe product team so that we can continue to use the CMS to connect meaningfully with the people that the content reaches. So Noel is actually here later in the conference to speak about how we want to reinvigorate the community in 2022. And also a huge part of how we want to try and connect with these people and create these new possibilities is the research and development with our most engaged relationships, which happens actively here in New Zealand. So what do we have that actually launches us forward? And so when we come down to it, when we try and think about these strong fundamentals, it really comes down to the mindset of how we support and secure the CMS and establish it for the web of tomorrow. And so it's really a mindset for modern personal experiences. You know, this is a big direction that we see the modern content going. And so we're mindful of it. It's the attention given to the landscape of content services, content intelligence, and Web3. So we are looking forward. We are looking for the ways that the CMS can reach people through new vehicles for connection, new vehicles for content. And so we actually, part of our mindset is to trust in the value of flexible, extensible content management, and critically, content management that people love. And so we push forward with this passion for our community and really the capability to tackle the complexity of content to try and uncomplicate it so that we can launch forward. Who is experiencing the needs we foresee? Something we're observing is that content services, they got too complicated. And we're seeing a movement back towards uncomplicated. The market is asking for uncomplicated content platforms. And so critically, these are modern content brands. And essentially, this is every private and public organization that's racing right now to try and remove that complexity debt, to remove that technical debt that they've accumulated trying to build up all of their content platforms. And we see early adopters as being banks and financial tech, retailers and gaming, domestic utilities as well. So when we're thinking about, you know, retailers and gaming and domestic utilities, something you'll probably notice is that around any leading one of these brands, it's people at the center. They are there in service of the people that uphold their communities. And so another thing we're finding is that people are actually rejecting disjointed experiences at the moment. We're noticing a correlation, which is that complicated content platforms are creating gaps where people can slip through. And so people are rejecting those experiences because as technology evolves and people get more familiar with the way that platforms operate, they want to be able to be in a cohesive, unified experience. And so We believe that Silverstripe CMS has the flexibility, extensibility, and scalability to bridge this gap. When we look into it further, we actually start to uncover where the opportunities are for us. And so something we look to, and bringing it back to this conversation about core and bringing it back to this conversation about needs, we're addressing the fundamental problem that most content is still not truly engaged by its users. And we actually hear a lot of the frustration in people that own content portfolios that a lot of their effort and a lot of their the content they build over time actually gets wasted or lost or forgotten or not engaged further on in their campaigns and their needs to reach their audience. So it's really, our opportunity is to be a foundation for these modern content experiences. And it's not just about, one web browser, one content author. We're thinking about being spread across the everyday journey between devices and platforms, something that we're all familiar with, I believe, in this room. But this is more than just sort of consumer or private experiences. This can go deep and meaningfully into organizations and communities. So knowledge sharing settings like intranets, knowledge bases, and communities and the tools that they set up around their content to reach each other. And essentially, wherever complicated technology has blocked a focus on people and has blocked the focus on the people that the content is for, that's what we want to be a foundation around so that we can really strengthen this core and start to build a space for tomorrow. So something I wanted to raise here is that it's this core. It's the flexible, extensible, and scalable Silverstripe CMS that we know today. And future direction requires a few things that we've identified and I believe are strongly felt in the community. It's clear upgrade paths. A few of us experienced the transition from CMS 3 to 4, and we remember it with different levels of emotion, I'm sure. And it's headless functionality, something that we all want to get in and start working with multiple platforms and start working with different devices and unified experiences. Something that we are going to need for Silverstripe to be a core part of our future is more composability from the CMS and more configuration choices from the CMS. So the ability to be able to recognize the needs of a modern content era. And so it's uncomplicated, modern content management. This is what our future direction requires. So, and of course, to be, I guess, technologically relevant in the present day, we need cloud and scale capability, and we need quality and security capability, because we're holding on to these ideals that inspire us today. So something I wanted to touch lightly on was to think about a content experience that we know quite well, which is Tourism New Zealand. And they're quite a large international facing brand here in New Zealand that we work closely with. And so they have some interesting content experiences in the modern setting. They have 3.8 million international arrivals when travel is working like it was pre-pandemic. But they're getting 16.3 million web visitors in the last 12 months. So there's a lot of visitors and people looking to get value from this website. And something I can point out here is this website, I believe, receives between 12 and 13 hits a second. So the scalability factor is here, and it is driven by Silverstripe CMS. So this particular brand has 5 Silverstripe CMS platforms because this is how they enable their experiences. But something that's unique to Tourism New Zealand, which makes them a good case study, is that traveling users continuously switch between devices and platforms as they go. And so this is essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about these unified, cohesive experiences that the web is looking for today and tomorrow. And Tourism New Zealand, I think, is a great example of a brand that can utilize Silverstripe CMS to take them where they need to go. So, but I think fundamentally, and this is sort of something I'm really trying to highlight here, is that the content experience success of Tourism New Zealand actually directly boosts New Zealand business owners and their families. So right at the heart of these unified experiences, of these core functionalities, these foundations that Silverstripe CMS wants to strengthen today, is a people center, a people in New Zealand who are directly benefited by us succeeding in where we're heading. So Silverstripe CMS to us is indispensable. It's a core part of where we are heading. And so I wanted to hand it over to Wayne to talk a little bit about Silverstripe tomorrow.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jackson. And as you can see, I tried to just make sure the Silverstripe sign was behind me here. I'm in the office in Wellington right now in New Zealand. So as Jackson said, the important thing is, and this is the part of the future that we see, or a very important part of the future that we see, is about unlocking the personalized web and reaching people. And so if we can do that through the CMS, to be able to have integrated user journeys or experiences, consistent content experiences across that journey, a unified content experience right across any channel of choice, anytime they want, with that unified, consistent messaging and content journeys. Foundations for those coherent interactions, so they're not disjointed. And most importantly, a mindset for personalized experiences. So if we go on to the next slide, please, Jackson. The marketing technology stack is complex and getting even more complex. From recent research we've seen as well, as Jackson says, we all started out with a CMS years ago. It moved through the phases of digital experience platforms and everything, but it looks like the content management system is still king. And now what organizations are wanting to do is break apart that complexity and that complication and have the content management system actually integrate with other parts of that MarTech to deliver value and deliver the personalization to those users that it needs. So CMSs need to be ready, and we believe this really importantly is that it needs to be able to interact with new technologies and have things like omnichannel content services, omnichannel personalization, again with data integration, content intelligence, audience data operations, and things like interaction and delivery environments, among many other capabilities as well. So Silverstripe is definitely still part of our future. And as we move through the next decade, it's going to get even more fun. Thank you.
Now, I've been warned by the crew that early keynotes at these receive quite a few questions. So what we tried to do is allow a bit more breathing room here at the tail end of the keynote to see what questions are coming through. You've got Wayne and myself, and I'm hoping that someone could help me connect in with what's in the room, because right now it's just Wayne and I in a really intimate Melon app. I'll keep an eye out for some comms coming my way. I'm just receiving some comms. I can't hear anything yet, sorry. The anticipation is killing me. I'm hoping I picked that up okay. So is the question around how can we how can we think about these bigger topics and push them out into the world without necessarily putting it onto the community? Is that what I'm hearing? I'm looking for nods from the panel. Great. Okay, so something I think is a fundamental experience of what we get at Silverstripe is we have to look at the impacts we make at the very center of the CMS and how they sort of permeate and how they sort of grow. There's some things that we've experienced in the past that really snowballed and sort of created maybe blockers or undesirable experiences. And so what we're looking to do really, and I think this is connected to how we reinvigorate the community in 2022, is we're leaning into setting up our core areas of accountability. So we're making sure that we're doing the research, that we're doing the design, that we are iterating the solutions that are implemented into the CMS effectively, And so I believe the kind of design ethos of how we establish this without pushing it out into the community is that we create the right foundations within the code. So thinking of it from an architectural perspective, I'm describing the ability for the community to reliably extend the CMS, not necessarily, maybe superhero developers or rockstar developers, but a really well-designed, really centralized harness that seats extensions that the community can use and love. And so what I'm kind of describing are the conditions for the web of tomorrow and our ability to grow. Now, we're very lucky that we have a really strong team of developers that work every day in Silverstripe. And so when we talk about the community, we include that our commercial developers as well. And so together as a collective team, when we are doing these things I just described, when we've done our research well, when we've done our design well, when we've integrated it into the CMS in meaningful ways, we can start to create these early stage extensions, put them out into the community and see what gets picked up. So it's an iterative process, starting from a great foundation, using good iterative design and good iterative models with the right code base, and our ability to engage the community, not push it out into the community, engage the community and grow these things together. That's how we see our ability to be able to fill these gaps. All right, so the question I'm receiving is, we've heard about the security feature. What are details, tooling and patterns around the security? So this is where it gets interesting. Something that has really stood out to us over the last 5 to 7 years is the importance of security in the market at large. And so as an organization in New Zealand, we work closely with some of our nationwide partners to ensure that we have a high standard of security already. And we're pushing for an even higher standard this year and next. And so when we're discussing security, we really have to think about the ways of working around security, right? So I'm talking about like our DevSecOps, I'm talking about our security scanning, I'm talking about our automation. And so something that's always been a big ask, and something that I touched on in the presentation, which is around the way that Silverstripe can bring best practice to the community, is that we're trying to enable the community's ability to wrap around the CMS with the security features that matter to their build, their workflows. So in terms of the details around security, what we're looking for is more touch points, more ability to effectively create test environments, to effectively create a production representation of information, to hook in automation into our extension patterns, and to allow for workflows and the systems that teams are using for quality assurance and security assurance to really be able to engage with the CMS and retrieve the information that has the evidence and the demonstration that the CMS is secure. So it's not really around an auditing practice like we've utilized a lot in recent years. We're moving towards evidence. And so tooling and patterns really comes back to, it's funny because security is important and we really value it. I'm going to give it a simple and familiar pattern. It's our configuration APIs, our extension APIs, and the ability to be able to really get these scanning systems and these automation patterns to work within the context of the CMS. Yeah, right. So I've got a question. Will Silverstripe address content intelligence with specific modules? Now, I think the short answer here is yes, because the way that I hope I'm still on screen because I've lost view of the room, but something that we believe in the CMS for tomorrow is that the CMS is a core of flexible and extensible functionality. So when we are looking for content intelligence integrations, when we're moving into the way that data flows, into machine learning stacks and things like that, we're not looking for the CMS to be the business logic, to be the central driver for content intelligence. What we're looking for is for the ability for the content to flow meaningfully into systems that accommodate the CMS. So I think, yeah, the answer is that it will be modules, but these modules will most likely be about flexible adapters into meaningful cloud-based technology or centralized technology that enables content intelligence across a content experience. Now, I've got an extension of this question, which is, what does content intelligence mean in the context of Silverstripe? And so to elaborate on that a little bit, modern content, is moving towards a personalized experience, is moving towards a highly faceted engagement point for the people that are using content. And so the way that we envision Silverstripe driving these highly faceted modern content experiences is being that unified central management point that allows teams to set the basis, establish the DNA of this content that can then go out and reach your audience in meaningful and decorated ways. So I think when you're thinking about the full experience of a faceted content discovery or a personalized experience, the CMS is at the heart of it. It's not the full extent of all the functionality, but it holds on to the main equity, the main content, and I would say like the main property of content that is driving these systems that create these really modern experiences. Just waiting for that question to come through. I'm having an amazing experience where I see your body language, and then I have to like map the body language in my mind to the written question. Our team in the back is just helping us receive this one. So I've got the question here. We heard a lot about strategy and an abstract level of the vision of the future. Are we willing to share a roadmap for the future on the technical level? Yep. This is that interesting kind of way of describing a vision, right? Is that once we kind of establish a narrative, it's really nice, and I know that the kind of geek in me really likes to hear about the nuts and bolts of how we roll these things out. And so something that we've actually been experiencing at the organization is a need for us to be able to grow our team so that we can reach a critical mass today that allows us to have these roadmaps. So I have a slightly disappointing answer for you, which is that we operate a lot right now in our teams on the ingenuity and intuition of where we need to establish the strengths of the CMS. And we are working really hard on the details and the technical roadmap. Now, Max, later in the conference, when he's discussing the release policy, will be thinking about the technical roadmap as part of that conversation. So keep an ear out. Yeah, really good. Okay, so so we talked about headless, and the question is, will there be an officially supported modules for Gatsby, Next.js, and that will be supported in future years? Now, I can tell you that this is a really big conversation that happens within the organization as well. We have a really strong pattern being developed at the moment around JS runtimes that allow us to actually establish the kind of real world environments that allow us to mature these modules. So I want to say that the passionate Silverstriper in me would really like to see modules that are dedicated to our favorite static publishing stacks or our favorite modern headless support. And it's not just about Gatsby and Next.js as well. It's about unifying device platforms so that we're really being able to feed into native applications where needed, PWAs where needed. And so Gatsby and Next.js and tools like that the beginning point of how we enter into these really modern build techniques. So I'm very enthusiastic about us going there, and I can tell you that there is a lot of research and design being done within the organization to try and get us to a state where we are putting these things out into the world. Well, this question can go to Wayne or myself, but I think given that I've done all the talking, Wayne, feel free to jump in. The question is, what are our thoughts on the competition from the SaaS market, and how do we position ourselves there?
Excellent question. Thank you. So I think the answer to that is very simple. As we saw earlier, we've tried to remain focused on our content management system and working with our community to try and see and bring the innovation to that. I think that whole market has moved from a traditional content management system through digital experience and SaaS, and they've all evolved their business models and operating models and commercial models, and moved down a model where everyone's tried to sell the consumption. Now, what happens is that provides a level of lock-in for organizations, and what they really want is flexibility and that composability. So SaaS is good, and I think what's really important, I think, is the evolution of the content management system to a PaaS-based offering that can present capabilities to the developers, to the marketers, so that they can actually develop those innovative, flexible applications in a much more dynamic way. So that's where we see the future, rather than trying to follow the market, actually try and get ahead of the market as well. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.